please give a huge warm welcome to Giancarlo Esposito!
How are you?
Good.
Good to see you. Good to see you. Welcome, 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 Atlanta! So happy to be here.
It is a pleasure to always have you here and be a chance to talk with you. I've had a couple of times to be able to talk to you in FanX in Salt Lake, and I'll tell you this, he gave probably some of the most inspirational thoughts I've ever heard in my entire life, so you guys are in for a real treat. Like we said, this is going to be a Q&A panel. We have a bunch of people lined up over here who'd like to ask you some questions, so let's get into these questions. Go ahead.
Hi, sir.
Hello.
I see the opposite of the mustache-twirling villain in so many roles that you've done. I've heard playing a villain of that character takes a lot more, maybe it's a lot more fun. What do you do in preparation for a villain that's strategic, planning, the mannerisms? What do you do for that?
You know, as an actor, I started on the stage many years ago, so I, in many ways, building blocks. And even down to memorization of lines or poetry or whatever in my life. So it is a building block process. But immediately when I think from your first sentence of the mustache twirling villain, I feel like I've come to a consciousness where, especially and specifically with Mandalorian and Moff Gideon, where I realize that we, many of us, or me, I qualify myself, are both. We are both the hero and the anti-hero in our own lives. And if I can bring that to the forefront of some of my work in a qualification that we call a villainous character, I don't believe anyone is villainous. For me personally, I believe that people are human beings and they struggle with both the light and the dark. So that's what I try to do when I create a character who I'd like for you to see as being a human being, someone who could be on the tracks at a certain moment and jump the tracks at another. And so we're here to try to help each other be real, be true, until you make a choice. Now, some of my characters make a choice, and they make a choice to go to the dark side. That's a different story. I think many of us want to do good for each other, and if we can remind each other of our humanity, then we'll become better human beings. You're
Excellent. The thing about it, when you portray villains, I don't think they're not really villains. They seem like they don't think of themselves as villains. They think of what they're doing is for the right, or they're doing something for the betterment of whatever they're trying to accomplish. They might go through some nefarious ways to do it. That's what makes, I think, your character so dynamic and so fun to watch.
I think, you know, as an actor, I have the opportunity to make choices, and if I make the right choices in here, then even if it's not on the page, you'll get it. You'll see my choices, and I believe that we're moving into a world of non-stereotypical casting and non-stereotypical thinking in many, many ways, and I'm happy for this moment in time because what I do is show you the full range of what you might want to see, but certainly of what I'd like to portray.
Excellent. All right, next question.
Hi.
All right, so if you've done a lot of your roles, and the majority of them have been live action, but obviously at one point in your career you did video games, and of course your biggest one was of course as El Presidente from Far Cry 6. My question is, yep. So my question is, was there a different experience doing motion caption and all? Like, was it a different kind of environment than doing live action, like in front of a camera or in a set?
Very, very different environment. You know, doing, let's say, Far Cry and Anton Castillo, was a very different experience because I had a belt of batteries around my waist in a green screen suit with all of the articulated areas of my body marked by sensors in a room with cameras that are shooting me within that environment, and with a football helmet on with a light in front of my face and 3 cameras, and playing basically what I might qualify as being theater games. But what I love about what I do is I get a chance to learn different technologies, and I get a chance to be in an environment where making film changes and is different. And so for me, I enjoyed that process because I learned something I didn't know before. Equally so, and equivalent to, in The Mandalorian, I'm in a huge room in costume, which is preferable to me because I feel like when you put on the clothes, it helps you become a certain character. But in that environment, it's a volume environment. It's a room similar to this with cameras on the walls and ceilings that are projected a whole environment. And you're in an empty room acting in an environment that you see in the background. So in the back of me, they can change the sky, they can change the earth, they can have things move, but they're focused on me, so I'm showing you a world that I can partially see, but I'm creating it in the visionary reflection of my being, so that I'm looking at something really far away. You see the resemblance of that behind me, but in front of me, I've got to project that. So what I'm saying is that, look, part of life is to experience new things, and part of, no matter what you do, I attest that if you find joy and love in it, you'll find it's exciting for you. If that excitement ever goes away, find something else to do, because we're supposed to be doing what we love to do in life, because that will then facilitate us our greatest contribution. And so I know I'm in the right place at the right time when I'm doing something that I love, no matter how difficult the situation is, no matter how difficult the technical part of it is, or the director, or anything else. I know there's a reason why I've been put here now. And to be able to be positive and find that reason is to connect with your creative depth of who you are, and to extend yourself in that way.
Excellent.
You're welcome.
Next question.
All right. Sorry, I just want to get this framed. So I just want to say you're one of my favorite actors probably in the current scene right now, so I just want to say thank you. But on to my question. So after playing Gus since basically 2010, and through Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad, how would you say it's been ever since you've had to say goodbye to the character since the finale last year?
I've been so blessed to be working so much that the goodbyes haven't been long. I've been right to the next thing. Of course, Breaking Bad was a very seminal moment in my career, and not only in my career, but also in my life. To be able to be asked to come back and do Better Call Saul was a question mark for me, because I don't like to repeat or do anything that I've done before. But I found some new experience with Saul, new nuance. I was able to direct in the 6th season, which was a great thing. I was able to really figure out how to change the Gustavo that you knew from Breaking Bad to one in the final season of Saul who was more vulnerable, who was at risk from a formidable opponent. It's always difficult to say goodbye to something that you know, because we get used to things. But in life, the opposite is true of our growth. Change is good. Change shakes things up. It doesn't make us feel great because it's awkward, and it forces us to do something we haven't done before. And that, although it feels awkward and uncomfortable, is exactly where we should be, because it challenges us to face a new experience in a new way. So I have this thing about, once I did Gustavo Fring and I was asked to be a villain over and over again in different things, I didn't ever want to rely on what I did in Breaking Bad or Saul to create that person. So for me, each character is new and fresh, and I forget what I did before. And I shy away from anyone who comes to me and says, we want you to play a Gus-like character. I walk out of the room. That's not what I want to do. But the change and the attitude is, your attitude is all you can control. Right? That's all you have control over. You may want to have control over the world. I may want to have control over every question you ask me, but I don't. All I can do is take it in as it comes to me and process it and give you an honest, truthful, and organic answer. So for me, I've been blessed to be able to move on and play other characters that are intriguing to me, as intriguing as Gustavo Fring, and hopefully that'll keep coming to me if my attitude keeps inviting that situation. Whether you know it or not, you invite into your life what is right for you. If you don't choose, the universe will choose it for you. And it may be against what you're asking for, right? But if you're able to think what you do today determines your tomorrow, if you're able to think about what you want because you have a choice, I'm not saying that choice will come true, but if you invite it, it's going to come to you. All you have to do is think about it, cultivate it, water the garden, and then stand up to the fear. Stand up and have courage and say, I welcome it because it will grow me, change me, and bless my life.
Excellent. Thank you. Next question.
Oh, I thought that was me. Okay. So, hello. I love your work, first of all. I'm a huge fan since the Community episode, like, for real. But I wanted to know, on that note, like, what has been maybe your favorite or most memorable, like, role? Not necessarily an audience favorite or what everybody else likes. What do you, like, what was your personal, like, favorite thing to play?
I've been so blessed to love my work and to be able to choose. Even from the time where I wasn't making a lot of money and couldn't make ends meet, I always made a decision that I wanted to choose. So I could pull a bunch of obscure things out of my hat that, Go Tell It on the Mountain, Elijah, one of my favorite movies because it was written by James Baldwin, and I really loved that piece because it connected to where I was at the time spiritually, and it was just a wonderful role. That goes back 40 years in my career. Each role to me is special, and I look at it as a special gem that's been given to me to cultivate something inside me that I need in that moment, and I bring something to the party. I was told by an acting teacher many, many years ago that there are no small parts, just like in life. There are no small parts. Each of us has an organic originality that we're being asked to contribute, whether you know it, realize it, see it, understand it, or not. And the universe is waiting for each of us to wake up to that, because that's called our calling. And there's no possible way, even if you choose to diminish yourself and go, oh, they don't want to see me, oh, I'm not good enough. Even if you make that choice that you are diminished because you're not good enough, because you haven't found your calling, the universe is still going to knock on that door and say, what do you want? Now, for many years when people asked me what I wanted, I couldn't come up with the immediate answer. And I ask and challenge each of you in this room to ask yourselves every day, even if you don't have the answer, what do I want? Look in the mirror. What do I want? Until you feel it in your gut and you have the answer. So for me, each character I played throughout the years has given me something that is a gift. And that's the gift I'm asking you to ask of yourselves daily until the answer comes to you. And when you find that connection, your life will run so very smoothly from here on out.
Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Next question.
Hi. First of all, it's just so good to meet you. I love Breaking Bad. I love Better Call Saul. But I just wanted to say, a few months ago, you said you want to be Professor X. How would you feel about playing Dr. Doom in the MCU if Professor X was taken?
Yeah, did I say that? Oh my gosh, be careful what you ask for, because it may come true. So the fans started blowing up the fact that there was a possibility for me to play Professor X. And I had met with Marvel a while ago, and I told that story. It was about possibly playing Loki in a TV show, and I wanted to do a movie with Marvel, and I love what they do. And that got out there, and the fans blew it up. But yes, I like the idea of Doom. I like the idea of Magneto. I like the idea of Freeze. You know what I mean? So it's going to happen because it's in the universe, and that's how I think. Once it's in the universe, it's going to happen. Sadly, they're not ready to do any of those yet. X, I would like to play. I think he's a complicated person, and I know they want to re-envision that. I have questions about being in a wheelchair. Like, I'm an active dude, so I don't know, like, I know X wasn't always in the wheelchair, so I have ideas, about how to get him out of the chair and have that chair be a different chair than what we think it has been. So I'm all about the Marvel world. I'm thankful and grateful to the fans for blowing up the possibility and idea that that could be a part of my world, and I think it's gonna come. Keep doing it.
Love your work.
Thank you.
Everything. What is your dream role? Like, you have done everything as far as characters, TV, movies. But do you have like that role in the back of your head, like you said, in the universe?
There are a number. What is my dream role is the question, and do I have it in my head? I've wanted to play Pushkin for a long time, a poet, playwright of mixed race from Russia, and that's something that interests me. I have ideas to to play a pirate because I feel like I was a pirate in a past life. So, but I'm trying to figure out what that story is. I was recently in New Orleans doing my own show for AMC called Parish, which will be out probably next season on AMC. And so that is a port city. I'm intrigued by port cities, especially one that went all the way from Louisiana to Maine before the Louisiana Purchase. So I'm interested in history. And so I'd like to find a story. In New Orleans, I was exposed to the Lafitte brothers, who were pirates, but really tax evaders in many ways. And so it allows me to think about how in our country capitalism has affected those who want to get around it. And I'm sure there were African Americans who were involved in that world as well, but we never really haven't as of yet seen those stories. But I'd like to be able to foster the Robin Hood idea, that when we're doing something that may be illicit for a good purpose, it changes the dynamic of morality behind it. Not to say that that's good, but to say that that's an expanded person who keeps knocking on the door and saying, I want to do this for human beings, and I know I've got to do this. It doesn't really quite make me feel right to get to a place where I can do this. We're at that moment in time in our world now. We're at that moment in time where we've been drawn back to war and savagery and people dying, and who's going to stand up? And so I'm looking for projects and characters who are willing to stand up to a world that's focused on big business and not focused on each and every one of us, meaning you and me, who may have great intentions, but who don't run the show. So I don't want to run the show. I want to run the show with each and every one of you, because I feel like that will return us to a humanity that we need to be living and breathing today.
Excellent.
Here's a question to ponder. Do you enjoy hurting other people?
I'm really a cruel bastard.
Thank you.
I mean, there's a light in the dark to us all, and someone has to take control of the chaos.
Do you think Gus is your most intelligent character? I know that he just seems so intelligent that, and I know that maybe it's through his experience that he has, and you've talked about it before. It just seems he seems so smart and worldly. Do you feel like he's one of your smartest characters that you've played?
I think he is one of the smartest characters I played, and I designed him that way because I didn't want to be, for lack of a better way to put it, the mobster with the little dog and the guy who's stereotypical. So to break out of that stereotypical realm of character, I wanted to create someone who was a thinker. And so I did, but he was flawed because he was a thinker and could think ahead of you, but his heart is a little dead, right? So he's very intelligent, but he doesn't, and he feels energy, but his heart is not open because it's been broken. So if you look back to Max Arciniega, you know, someone that he adored and cooked for him, that was his MO, was to create, to give people an opportunity. And that plays into who I am, and to make a trade. There's a trade we make in life. I mean, how often do you go for a job interview and they ask you all these questions and you go, yeah, thank you. And they look at you and go, well, thank you. They dismiss you and they say, you'll hear from us. How often do you go, wait, now I've told you about me, and I've told you what I could offer you. How often do we go, what can you offer me? Right? So this is empowerment in a graceful way. You've told me what you guys do, and why don't you tell me how and what you can offer me in my advancement so that we can grow together, right? Change is the power dynamic of things. And so Gustavo, I felt like was a character who was willing to take a chance on human beings, but he wanted something. So when you're attached to something, a certain outcome is gonna happen. When you're non-attached, anything can happen.
Interesting, awesome. Go ahead.
Hi. So, obviously, I'm a huge fan. It's an honor to even be talking to you right now. But my question is, in a lot of your shows, from whether you're in The Boys as the leader of Vought or in Breaking Bad, where you're a leader of both an empire and a chicken franchise, how do you get yourself into the mindset from being Giancarlo Esposito to being a leader of all these different groups on stage, and maybe even a leader of your peers offset too? So how do you just get yourself into a mindset of like you have to lead once you're on set?
I breathe. Just the truth. I mean, Gustavo was created out of the really thinking part of Gustavo Fring, and the relaxed, calm part of his observation of human beings was to be able to take the space and time to feel energy. And we're in a world where everything moves quickly. So you're asked a question and you're expected to know the answer, as opposed to taking a moment to be thoughtful, right? To be thoughtful. And our attention has been whittled down by our electronic devices that give us the answer that we need now, as opposed to taking a moment to find the answer we need within. So it's a great responsibility for me as an actor even, to get on set and command energy and to lead people. So I believe you, and I intimidate people, I totally understand it, and I have 4 daughters, and I know how to do that now. But I have daughters who say to me, they'll stop, maybe they have imbibed some of my teaching, they'll breathe and they'll look at me and they'll go, Papa, you're just extra. So I use my extra to take command of the energy, of the time. I use the space to get your attention. Because if I were just, no one's gonna listen to that. I used to lose my temperature and my ex-wife would go, she'd just look at me, are you done now? Are you all finished? That doesn't get attention. What gets attention is a rooted, grounded person who is thoughtful. People want to follow someone who is thoughtful. If you don't know where you're going, you're never going to get there. And I amend this for my children. If you don't know where you're going, it will take you longer to get there, because I want to be positive. But if you know where you're going, you're going to get there. And so for me to be able to, and there are days I wake up and I just don't want to take control, because my life is more about not taking control anymore. But when I get on set and I've got to stand down Homelander, I need to know how to do that. I need to know how to look at Anthony Starr, I love him as an actor, and put him in his place without the words, before I even speak the words. You are not a god. You are simply bad product.
Thank you for being here today and sharing all this encouragement with us. My question is for your amazing character, Bugging Out from Do the Right Thing. And I'd like to know if any of the scuffed Air Jordan scene was improvised. And part 2, real quick, how was your experience working with Spike Lee?
I love Spike. I think he's a great filmmaker and a really incredible human being. He ran the set early on like a coach of a sports team. As you know, he's a Knicks fan and wonderful, sports enthusiast. That movie was a great film for me because it allowed me to be part of a family, and we all got very close on the film. And we took a whole block in Brooklyn and shut it down, and with the help of the Fruit of Islam, Nation of Islam, and we're able to turn a street in Brooklyn into a set. But what was really wonderful is we were able to connect with each other and deepen our relationships as human beings and make a film that we had a feeling about. And when I say that, we had a feeling about it, is as we were making it, we knew something great was going to happen, because our fearless leader, who at that point in time directed a little bit like a sports coach, a dictator, you were always afraid you were going to get benched. Spike, look at you the wrong way. On the bench, sit down. But he knew what he wanted, and that's what you need as a director. So I had a gorgeous experience on Do the Right Thing. I was empowered to be the voice of change in that. And to give you an idea of character and how I work, Bugging Out was someone who had great passion and great energy, which I do, and you can tell, but didn't have all of the elements worked out. He didn't have a great education. He didn't have all of the way to go about it. But he had a resistance. And so I connected to Spike and his resistance. He's become a great filmmaker because he's tamed that resistance to have the ability for you to listen to it without being slammed in the face by it. And I that movie was a seminal moment in my life. I say it was probably my first rise to stardom after that film, because Bugging Out was such a profound and pronounced character.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Excellent.
Hello, thanks for being here today. Mando Season 1 for me is automatically in my top 5 Star Wars anything. And the character you play in it, for me, is so believable. At times I kind of forgot I was watching a show. And that's a testament to your ability, and I appreciate that very much. I'm going to defer my question to my 11-year-old and my 8-year-old son. Of course, they know the weapon you wield, so they want to know what's it like to hold the Darksaber.
I'll start by saying that I'm a huge Star Wars fan in the earlier movies, and when the mythology was really strong, and they lost it for a minute and made tentpole movies that were heightened, that in their reality that they imagined that we would all love, and we did. But now they've returned in the show due to the effort of Jon Favreau and David Filoni to they deserve a big hand due to the mythology that they're supporting again. That hero and heroine's journey. I mean, that's the journey that we're all on as human beings, and it links up to George Lucas's relationship to Joseph Campbell. So as a young person seeing that, I wanted to be in that world of heroes and heroines. I wanted to make the right decisions that would guide all of us to our right decisions. Holding that Darksaber was the highlight of my time there, because it, again, is a big responsibility. I knew I wanted a great costume when Jon Favreau called me. He said, any special requests? I said, I gotta have a cape. I just gotta have a cape. So the lightsaber is this revered weapon or tool, much like the revered tools that we have between our ears. My mom used to say to me, they can never take away what's between your ears, and I was young and I would go, which meant develop your mind, your thought. It's great to have the backup of that lightsaber in case, no one really wants to hear what you have to say, then you can lop off their head. But you probably know the stories. I went through 6 of them. I tried to be really careful. I had great saber fights where I did every part of the scene, and it's like being a kid again in heaven. It was a really wonderful experience.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, just wanted to say I'm a huge fan of your work and your heists. Just wanted to know what inspired you to become the huge actor you are in both games and in TV shows?
My inspiration was that I wanted to really tap into what I think we all look for no matter what we do. I'm in a position where you can see me on the big screen and you can turn me on today and you can, you see a lot of me. But I believe it's true of any artist who's a painter. I love Comic Cons because we get to come and we get to play and be in wonder. But what I'm getting at is expression, right? Our lives are expression. No matter what we do, we have to communicate, and we can't do it alone. So we're part of a larger expression. And for me, I realized I was good at play acting, which has guided me to realize that I'm good at expressing myself. So that requires being a halfway decent communicator, and which is why I earlier said ask yourselves what you want, and see if you can answer that question in every moment, in every day of your life, because that propels you to understand who you are. So there's an interior world and an exterior world. We, at this time in history, are very involved in the exterior world, the world of everything that's shown to us, the shiny things, the great cars, the advertising that tells us how to dress and tell us how we'll be accepted. But when do we reflect ourselves back to the interior world, which is what I have to do? In what I do, I'm on a big screen, I'm given lines and characters, but I venture to say the reason I love what I do is because I've got to develop the interior world that's beyond the words, that allows you to know without saying a word what character I'm playing. That form of self-expression has become very important to me because it's subtle. It's not covert, it's overt. And that allows me to be the creative artist I've always wanted to be.
Thank you.
I just want to start off saying I've been a big fan of yours ever since that first scene in Revolution.
Thank you.
No one else remembers, but I do. My question for you is, so pretty much the genesis point for Gus is pretty much when Hector shot Max. If Hector hadn't shot Max, or if they hadn't even met Bolsa and the cartel, do you think they would have just gone on to sell their chicken, or do you think Gus always had that ambition and hunger in him?
Gus always had not only the vision and hunger to expand what he believed the Salamancas weren't doing well, Breaking Bad. The Salamancas were, in Gus's mind, they were animals. They had no respect for humanity, human beings, and they were bullies. And if, in fact, Hector had not shot Max, it would be somewhat of a different story. However, I believe that Don Eladio would have never allowed Gus to have his meth in his little chicken boxes. It wouldn't have happened. And the accusation was, from Don Eladio, was that Gus was tainting the chicken or wanting to use the chicken business to sell the meth. Gus was smarter than that. He wasn't a backdoor meth seller. His chicken restaurant was a whole different deal than his meth. The laundry, the laundry was the key, because that is what guided him to realize he needed a front to be able to have the mess lab, and he had the real estate to do that. And, laundry smells a certain way, you don't really smell the meth. He had vents. He's a genius. So I think that no matter what happened in that moment where Hector killed Max, that is what turned Gus's heart to stone. And that was eventually his downfall. Revenge eventually became his downfall. Really great question. Thank you for asking it.
Thank you. Thank you for all the good work.
Hello, sir. I've been following your acting career since I was 10 years old, and you were on Once Upon a Time playing the Mirror. Great role.
Thank you.
My question is, over your long acting career, you've seen a lot of changes come and go, but with recent changes like technological advancements, CGI, and voice analytic patterns, do you feel like it has become harder for actors and actresses to make an impact in their profession?
I do. I do. I've had, I think part of my success is that in any given season of television, in the last 4 seasons, I've been on 3 to 5 shows every season. So you've had a chance to see me in a lot of different incarnations. I guess many actors have a worry that there'll be a bank of me, right? With the new technology, that I could then possibly sell my image for a few $1 million and give them all these facial expressions, which I learned how to do, how it works with Far Cry. I go in and I do all these expressions. They have a whole list: anger, happiness, sadness, this, that, and the other, so they can mark my face and take that impression. And I think a lot of actors are starting to talk about how that impression can then be taken and used in any way the studio wants to use it. And that is, my soulful work, so that then they can create you. And the danger, I think, is to have an animated version of me, animated in any way that they manipulated, in any way that the studio chooses to do that, and then you won't need me anymore. I feel blessed to live in this time where I'm able to, I do live theater. That's where I come from. And to me, it's great to support live theater, hearing live poetry, dance, and everything else, because that's a creative expression that's happening in the moment. Even though I'm filmed, I'm here doing Megalopolis here in Atlanta with Francis Ford Coppola. Even though it's filmed, it is still happening in the moment. To take away that interaction, now granted I'm interacting with a camera when I'm on film, but when I'm doing theater, it's a wonderful exchange. Because it's like this. I can feel the room. I can feel, when I have people's energy and when I don't. I can feel when people are bored, and I know when I'm, as I say, on the train or off the train. So to answer your question, is this sharing of energy and connection is irreplaceable. What do you think we missed in COVID? What was the thing that we really missed? It's the thing I missed when I was on the road for 2 years, came home, was living with my youngest daughter, was living with me in Austin, Texas, and I walked in the door and she said, "Oh, Papa." Right, we can look at each other, we can feel energy. She looked at me and she went, "Oh, Papa, what's going on?" And I dropped my bags and I said, "I need to be touched. I just need to be hugged." And she put her arms out and she hugged me for 2 minutes. I was awkward. She was 16, hugged me for 2 minutes. And I was like, to have a family member, someone I love, my own child, wrap her arms around me and give me love. That's what we missed in COVID. That's what we miss in technology, where right? We miss this connection, and that's why don't ever forget how important this is. Don't ever forget that we're human beings. We need to touch each other. We need to feel each other's energy. We need to be honest and truthful that our technology can never replace that, because you're feeling each other's heart. You're feeling each other's souls, and you're getting the essence of who we are. And that's what life is, right? It's the essence of our connection. It's the truthful, honest, organic transfer, reception of energy. And that is a beautiful thing. Great question you asked.
Thank you, sir.
Excellent. All right, guys, we have time. This will be our final question. It's our final question.
Thank you for being here today, sir. I know you've been like the villain of Hollywood. What fictional characters or villains have influenced you for your time to be Gus Fring or Moff Gideon?
I come from a different time. I loved the Joker because he was so, the Joker throughout history. And Frank Gorshin's Joker, way back before you knew the Joker, was such a clown, but was so delicious because he enjoyed, wreaking havoc. That was a really great performance for me to see and for me to understand. I loved Public Enemy. I'll never forget, James Cagney, who some of you may not even remember as an actor, being on a scaffold, shooting his Tommy gun, going, "Top of the world, Ma!" He chose to be that guy, So they're performances that are really out there. If you're in for a penny, be in for a pound, right? And so to me, there are a lot of villainous characters who were one thing, but you could see that they really enjoyed it. I want to be the character who's a reflection of your choice, right? I think about this a lot with Moff Gideon. Gus had a way that he knew you could do it that was better. A lot of ego. I can do it better. Let me show you. Let me do it better. Moff Gideon knows everything. You have something I want, right? He knows everything. How does he know it? The whole, galaxy's falling apart. He's the warden of one section of it, right? I'm getting somewhere here. He in his brain says, I can do this better. I can lead people better. He has a heroic idea, and then no one listens to him. No, you can't. We, as our, the whole team, we have an idea that we can do this collectively. No, you can't just step out of line and say you're going to do it. So then he just tries to take it because no one will listen. Heroic idea, then he falls from grace and he becomes the anti-hero. He's still a hero. Underneath it, I try to lay the seed that he still wants to do something good for people. His ego runs crazy, and wait till you see season 3.
Thank you.
Please give me a huge round of applause, everybody. Every single time you talk, I feel like a better person.
Hey, this is Wilson Cruz from Star Trek Discovery, and you're watching Fandom Spotlite. Be sure to like and share, plus have fun and follow your fandom. Doctor's orders.